to the.
It's so nice to have everybody here.
Alex, I'll come by later with the stuff.
Thank you. I have tomatoes. My dad has extra tomato plants. Do you want?
Adriana.
I know someone.
Yes.
Yeah, Adriana and
Anyone who's like, do you want some? Yes.
So
Yes.
Pam, I'll get the tomatoes from Alex, and because she's right around the corner from me,
I have
and then
to
you
drop
can bring
stuff
them
off
to Adriana.
to Sue and Adriana. So whatever they want, just put in my car.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, Pam, you're just terrific.
Yes.
Okay, what time is it? Let's stop yapping.
Started live.
Ready?
You got the recording? Okay.
Hold on 1 second. Why is it? Yeah, it's recording.
Yeah, it's recording. So we're reading from the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. This is Satchidananda's translation. We're on book 2, Sutra 37. To one established in non-stealing, all wealth comes. If we want to become the world's richest people, this is a very simple way. There's no need to get into the stock market or even to go to work. Just practice non-stealing. All of us are thieves, knowingly and unknowingly. We steal things from nature. With every minute, with each breath, we pick nature's pocket. Whose air do we breathe? It's nature's. But that doesn't mean we should stop breathing and die. Instead, we should receive each breath with reverence and use it to serve others. Then we are not stealing. If we accept it and don't give anything in return, we are thieves. We steal because of greed. We want to do little and get a lot. Many people go to the office and just, well, not anymore, just sit around, use the phones to make their own appointments all day, take free supplies from the supply room, and accept their paycheck at the end of the week. Aren't they stealing that money? Do we not also steal other people's ideas? If we are completely free from stealing and greed, contented with what we have, and if we keep serene minds, all wealth comes to us. If we do not run after it, before long it runs after us. If nature knows we aren't greedy, she gains confidence in us, knowing we will never hold her for ourselves. But normally when we get something, we tend to lock it away and put the keys in a safe place. We tend to imprison our possessions, whether money, property, or even people. The moment we try to imprison money, for example, it feels, what is this? I want free movement. They've made me round so I could roll. But here I am locked up. Oh, I've come to the wrong person. The moment I get the chance, I'll roll away. Some stingy people never open their vaults. The money just sits inside and prays, please somebody release me. Inevitably, the prayer is heard by a robber who comes to the rescue. Instead, if we have the attitude, if you want to come, come. When you want to go, go. Everything will say, why do you push me away? Let me stay with you. Don't send me away. I experienced this myself. I never lock anything up. Things just come and stay. Even if I tell them to go, they beg to be with me. We can all see the situation with babies. They may come to us, play, sit on our laps, but the moment they want to go, if we try to hold them, they become bored. What is this? I made a mistake coming here. And they run away. The next time we call them, they think, I don't want to come. Those people just keep me with them. Instead, if we just allow the babies to leave when they want, they'll certainly come to us again. Another way of stealing things is by not letting others use them. Suppose we own 1,000 acres of land, most of which we don't use. If there are people who want to buy 100 acres and we don't let them, we are stealing its usage. If someone has 50 garments in his closet and his neighbor doesn't even have one, the first person is stealing the second's usage. Because certain people have the buying power to make a lot of purchases, they raise prices for poor people who don't have much money. If everyone merely bought for their own necessity, goods would be left over in stores and prices would come down. The whole world's economy is based on this. In the US, I have heard that thousands of tons of wheat and potatoes are dumped into the ocean to keep the market in proper condition and maintain prices. Instead of this practice, these goods should be given away. Because this lowers prices, though, nobody thinks much about hunger. Is this not a sin, a theft? The land belongs to everyone. A person in a corner of Australia is just as much an equal owner of the land as anyone else. What is grown in the United States can first be given to its citizens with the surplus divided among everyone else. If we know how to care and share, no poverty or hunger need exist anywhere. In the richest country in the world, it is a pity to see things like hospital being closed for lack of funds while billions are spent on rockets, spacecrafts, and bombers. Is it more necessary to go to the moon than to take care of our neighbors? I don't negate scientific inventions and developments. They are fine. We can all ride to the moon, but only after everyone has been well fed, clothed, and educated. A South Indian proverb says, the stomach is crying for a piece of bread. The hair is crying for a bunch of flowers. Which is more important? The hair can live without a garland, but the stomach cannot go without a loaf of bread. So let us satisfy the stomach first, and then if we have money left over, we can get a number of garlands. Here people are sick and dying while a handful of others want to go to the moon. When should we go to the moon? Only after making the earth happy. People who don't know how to live here will end up taking their same hell to the moon. The government steals the happiness and health of hundreds and thousands of people. It's a public theft, a daylight robbery. Sometimes when I read the news, I feel really funny about all this. Everything based on fear, pride, competition, all the anti-ballistic missiles created out of fear. It's like saying, I'm mortally afraid of you, so I must protect myself with bombs and missiles. But in the next breath, the government says, let's be friends, let's exchange cultural matters. How can you have both? Another thing I see are many of the plans of the US right in the magazines. I once read an article about an anti-ballistic system, how it worked, what the plans were. I really don't understand this principle. If I'm afraid of you, I won't say, here is a blueprint of the pistol I have in my pocket. If I were made president tomorrow, I would hop on a plane, go to the USSR and say, why bother with all this competition? Let's be friends. What I have, I'll share with you. What you have, share with me. Let's forget this enmity and be together. That would finish the matter off once and for all with a person-to-person talk. If you want to kill me now, I'm here. You can do it. Although it might seem blind, the only way to do things is with absolute honesty. At least one side should destroy its ABM systems and nuclear weapons. If the US did this, what would happen? Would the Soviets come and devour us? In another magazine, I saw a photo of the hotline telephone, which is kept under lock and key with someone watching over it always. Agony. Now scientists are making lists of all the broken pieces of satellite revolving around the Earth so no country mistakes them for missiles. Over a slight mistake, the whole world could go to the dogs. And people can always make mistakes. Just imagine how many bombers loaded with nuclear weapons are flying around. Is there any guarantee nothing will happen to them? So with all our modern inventions, we are really living in a horrible state. Our ancestors on horseback and carts seemed much happier. They might have eaten cruder food, they might have gone without radios, television, electronics, and supersonic transport, but mentally they were happier and healthier. It's high time to get rid of this anxiety. How long can we live under such great tension? By all this, we can see richness has nothing to do with monetary wealth. The richest person is the one with a cool mind, free of tension and anxiety. Changing all these world situations is not in our hands. We're not going to stop all these things, but what is in our hands is the ability to find joy and peace right here and now. If we live in the present, even though the whole world might blow up in a minute, it won't bother us. We can be happy in situations of tension. If we have decided to be happy, no one can make us unhappy. Anything might happen. An earthquake might decimate the entire world, but need not bother about the future. Nor should we worry about the past. It is already gone. To be happy this minute is in our hands. We're not going to change the world, but we can change ourselves and feel free as birds. We can be serene even in the midst of calamities, and by our serenity, make others more tranquil. Serenity is contagious. If we smile at someone, he or she will smile back, and a smile costs nothing. We should plague everyone with joy. If we are to die in a minute, why not die happily laughing? But a carefree life is possible only with a well-controlled mind, one that is free of anxiety, one without personal desires or possessions. When was this published?
It's interesting. There's a whole chunk that you read that's not in my copy.
This, well, I have the 15th printing, which is from 2010, but the first printing of this was in 1978.
Right.
It's interesting.
I'm not sure what mine is, but there was the whole part about going to the USSR and stuff.
No, maybe they took it out because it wasn't relevant, but now it's relevant.
Yeah.
So much of it is so relevant. They're doing the same thing. They're dumping all this food because they're not allocating it properly now with the whole pandemic. It's really wild. I mean, he touched on so many different topics, but when it comes to Asteya, there are so many different ways that we can steal. And I always think of the universal bank account when I'm taking on any action. Right? There's a universal bank account. What you put in comes back to you. So quite often we think, oh, if someone took something from me, then I have to take something back from them. But I try to think of it, oh, well, they must have needed it. And if the universe is taking it from me, I don't need it right now. It's not for me. It's not mine. And that's the idea of the yogi. The yogi looks at all the material and they think every single thing that I have is a temporary gift from the universe. Right? None of it is mine. And it gets into the subtle stuff. Not even my body is mine. Like not even my mind is mine. It's all temporary. It all is like a sweater I'm borrowing for the time being that's I'm gonna have to shed eventually and give up. Sometimes we think of the things that we have, like I even see my toddler, I think she got past it very quickly, this phase, but there was a good week where, this is mine, it's mine. And I would say to her, this is actually not yours, but it's being shared with you because you're loved. So why don't you share it back? And that seemed to get her out of this phase rather quickly. But I think adults need to hear that too from time to time. Nothing is ours. It's all on borrow. It's all grace. So if it's on borrow and we've been given so much, why aren't we giving more back? You know, we get into a state of fear and we start this contraction cycle. We're like, I don't have enough. How am I going to survive? I don't have enough. But even in those times, we have to think of the spiritual bank account. You have to keep giving anyway, in the faith that if you have something and you share it, it's going to come back to you in some form or another, right? The idea is like energy never goes away. It just changes forms. So what energy are we putting out and what energy are we getting back? And sometimes the energy we're getting back or that's getting taken away from us might be from, you know, your previous incarnation as a teenager and your poor behavior there, or it might be from when you were a kid, or the yogis will say it's even maybe some karma from a past life. So try to find this sense of equipoise or equanimity in the face of the flow of the material coming and going. I've been thinking about this reading since the whole pandemic started. It's been ringing in my ears, this like, if we all die, at least we can die happily laughing. I'm telling you, it's like the entire time this has been going on. Every day I kind of tell myself that, okay. Because, you know, when you're faced with mortality, which has been sort of the most sobering part of living in New York during this pandemic, I mean, we are the epicenter. It's been insane to see so many family and friends passing away, and even just friends, you know, they tell you, oh, it's only the old people getting sick. It's only the old people getting sick. I mean, I've had friends my age who have been so violently ill that we don't know if they're going to make it, but they pull through, which is, you know, amazing. But also it's scary, you know, to face mortality in this way. But we're all going to face our own mortality at some point or another. That's the most sobering, right? This body is not permanent, and we're all going, I mean, our body, mind is all just going to die. And if we don't prepare for that mentally, then it's going to be a big shock when we get to that moment. The yogis always teach that we're not just preparing to live, but we're preparing to die. Because they say at the moment of passing, whatever is in the mind is what drags you into your next body, your next life. And I think it's not just that idea of like what's flashing through your head, you know, as you're like going near the tunnel, the light tunnel. It's really what are you addicted to? What are you averse to? What are your samskaras? Because that's what's lodged in you. It's going to be, we manifest the life that we have now based on those things. They say you're going to manifest the next life based on those things too. So this idea of like, okay, we're all going to die. Can we die happily laughing? It's not that we're being asked to be morons, essentially. I know some people look at, when they don't understand the deeper teachings of the yoga system, they look at advice like that, like the yogi is just like being passive and they're not involved and they're not activists. And I think that's so far from the truth. I have so many friends, and I mean, even in this career, right, where they're sober and they have equipoise and they have equanimity because they do the practices of yoga, which brings you that kind of equanimity. And through that calm state, they're able to do more focused, good work for the world than the person who's having a nervous breakdown about it in the corner and like gets so stifled by their fear and their anxiety and their hatred and their anger that they can't function or they can't help, they can't serve. So essentially, if we're not taking care of the mind, that could be a form of stealing energy too, because then it cripples us and we can't serve. So it behooves us to be a little selfish in the capacity that we take time to do these practices so that we can have the time to serve afterwards. So it's not stealing other people's time if you say, I'm sorry, I can't participate with that right now. I got to sit on the couch and meditate, right? That's not stealing. What can be stealing is, you know, the basics of stealing, like taking the candy bar from the store so obviously, right? Or something a little more subtle of not being generous with your energy. If somebody's turning towards you and you turn away from them, it's a form of stealing. If you get an idea and you don't give credit to the people who gave you that idea, and then you're touting it as your own, that's stealing. I'm going to open it up to you guys because I'm sure that you all have a lot to say. Micheline, if you can unmute everybody. What are your thoughts? Everybody's muted. So.
You might have to do it yourselves, everyone, because it's not, I don't know why.
It's popping up to unmute ourselves or to stay muted, and we're all just staying muted.
This morning.
Asteya for me is always about time. Like, it's always about being mindful of other people's time. Like, if you say you're going to meet someone at noon, be there at noon, you know, don't show up at 2:00. You're stealing 2 hours of my time.
That's something I try to keep in mind every class I teach, because I can just keep going. It's like when I first starting, it's total opposite of when I first started teaching, where I'd be like, how am I gonna do a 90-minute class? And now if I'm not mindful, it'll be like the 11 a.m. class, it's like 11:10, and we're still in like yoga nidra.
I know. I remember when I first started teaching yoga, I was like, how am I going to teach for 25 minutes for the midterm? And now I could probably teach for 5 hours.
Yep. But and as nice as it is, you know, like people have things to go do. Some of them have to get back to work. When we're at the studio, there's meters that need to be fed, otherwise they're going to get ticketed.
Even when I was talking about like all this week, like about how there was something I was doing earlier in the week and I didn't want to do it. And it's like stealing from, if you're doing something with people and you don't really want to be there, you're stealing even energy from them. Cause like I don't know, like the way it's like stealing, it's like stealing their experience because you're just bringing negative energy. Like stay home and meditate on your couch instead.
That was totally a Pam reference, by the way. Yeah, we have to be able to fill up our own cup. It's such a corny saying, but you know, you can't, your cup will not flow over unless you fill it up.
Yeah.
So yeah, sometimes we steal from ourselves. I think a lot of people, especially yoga teachers, because they're such helper personalities, in the state of fear, they may steal from themselves instead of other people. They would never steal from somebody else, but they totally put themselves out to the point where they have nothing to eat. I think it's a very common thing that has to also be observed. It's also a spiritual practice, Asteya, to make sure that there's some kind of boundary, energetic boundary that you're setting, some kind of energetic exchange in each thing you participate in. Otherwise, it's almost like by stealing from ourselves, we steal from other people, like what Pam's saying.
It's also self-harm.
Yeah.
I mean, they're also linked.
Yeah. Back to ahimsa.
Yeah, everything's back to ahimsa. Well, that's a trauma. That's a trauma coping thing, right? The people pleasing. It's a trauma response.
It's easy to fall into, you know, you were talking about helping people. There's so many professions where you find people But there's a reason why people go past that boundary. It's one thing to be very helpful. It's quite another to step across the boundary where, in being very helpful, you're hurting yourself. And you're right. In the end, other people end up being hurt by it, but you're hurting yourself, which is just as bad.
I've been like, this is like a major theme for me, especially in the last couple of weeks. I feel like I have a lot of friends who are going through a lot of things right now. And there's been like one situation with one of my friends where she's like dealing with coming out of like an abusive relationship and kind of like oscillating between going back into it and like coming back out and going back in and coming back out. And I feel like I've been like just pouring from my cup too much to try to like help her and like bring her out, so much so that I'm losing sleep and then I'm getting stressed out, and I'm like, I'm also working full-time still, but I'm talking to her all day and I'm working full-time and I'm like doing way too many things. And I got to a point this week where I could tell that like what I was saying to her wasn't helping anymore because I was just frustrated. And it's like what you were saying, Amanda, like it really affects your ability to serve in the way that in the best way that you can when you are running on empty like that.
And she's probably on empty. So that's why she's, clawing at the walls trying to get help.
Yeah, definitely.
But I think that's when Sangha becomes such an important thing. When you have a community you can lean into, then you can say, what have we been doing, Michelle? During this whole thing, we say, we just all can't freak out on the same day. Like it's okay to freak out, but we just can't do it on the same day. So we've all been kind of taking our turns where we're like, I'm freaking out. And then we'll be like, okay, we'll lay down. The rest of us will take it. It's a lot. And in our culture in America, we keep getting further and further from community. And I think it's really damaging. We can't do it on our own. We're not yogis in a cave, right? We haven't made that choice. We're householders. We're in the grahasta stage of life. And that means that there has to be community. There has to be a group of people who can hold each other up. I mean, we're mammals. I think we forget. We forget all the time we're mammals. We're communal. We're social. We have to like be around people. So this must be a really tough thing for her to be isolated. And so maybe like if you don't have resources, reach out and try to build community wherever you go. So, Ashley, if you don't have the resources, then find a therapist who does have the resources, who can help, or another friend who's been through it, or a mutual friend who can step in. You know what I mean? I hope that's not like overstepping boundaries.
No, not at all. I feel like this, like sadhana helps me a lot. Yeah. Like last week I missed a bunch of days because I was just not sleeping, because I was like dealing with this all day every day and I was just not sleeping. But this week, like my sleep is still a little like wonky. I'm still a little bit stressed, but I've gotten up every day and I'm like, all right, I just like need to get here and I will be okay.
When my kids were babies, Amanda knows how like I was a complete mess because I had zero help. Like I lost my tea. I was a mess. But I finally found a women's group, and it was so hard for me to ask for help because I didn't have help for like, I don't know, 6 years or more. And one mom said, don't think of help. When you ask for help, and this has stuck with me all these years, when you ask for help, don't think of it as you are asking for something. Think of it as you're giving someone else the opportunity to do something that will fill them up. She's like, because when you help people, it makes you feel good, no? And I was like, so it's kind of like when we don't ask for help, we could be not only stealing from ourselves, but we're stealing the opportunity for others to do something that'll fill them up.
Well, even like I love that. And I think it's so important, like when we're helping other people, like our friend Anya, her daughter's very sick, and I'm like helpless. Like, what can you do for somebody that's 3-year-old is laying in the hospital for 3 weeks? And I could have very easily bought her everything that she wanted, or because I asked her, I'm like, just tell me, like, we're here for you. What do you want? And she's like, actually, and she listed some things. And I could have just like ticked them off, but I'm like, no, this is a community thing. Like, let me open this up. And people, I mean, I put 15 things on the list, and like in an hour last night, all 15 things were bought, and I sent an email. Like, I 100% agree with that. Like, opening it up to other people, but also asking people what they want. Because like, if I just did this, or like not what they want, but how we can help them, like, even just asking your friend, like, what can I really do for you? Like, I'm like, being honest, that's going back to Satya. Like, I don't know how to help you. Like, I feel, and if it, like, I'm not saying you should do this with your friend, Ashley, but I've gotten to points with some friends, like, I don't know what else to do for you. Like, how can I help you? Is there like somebody I can help find for you? Because at a certain point we have to be like, you're just helping them go around in the circle, and you have to stop it and be like, you know what, go this path and use this professional help, or that way.
Yeah, that's kind of the point that I reached this week, where I'm just like, even though I'm expending all this energy, like, what is it really doing?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Or it's like being like, I can offer you movement. Maybe she needs to be quiet for a little bit, and maybe she just needs to move. Maybe it's not about like a talking, because she's just draining your energy, and that's stealing from you.
Yeah.
And then you're turning around and she's stealing your sleep. And then you just become a cranky person to the next person that steps in. And then it just ripples down.
We have a therapist right in the group right here. Michelle can help. We were discussing this the other day, Michelle, right? This idea of how dialogue, were we discussing it, how dialogue can, a very effective dialogue can reveal to someone what their cycle is?
Yes.
It's like a really good therapist isn't going to talk much. They're going to ask you questions and then just parrot back what you're saying. And you'll be like, is that what I said? Is that what I meant? Is that what I'm thinking? And then all of a sudden, it's like through that deep immersion in the thought of like actually being present with it, that it dissipates. It's like, that's how we work through samskara in the yoga system. What Pam's saying, which is something Jafar says all the time, right? Like, are you helping someone or are you serving someone? And serving someone means asking them what they need in the moment, not necessarily thinking that you know what's best for that person. And I think that's really, that's very revolutionary when it comes to like the whole cult of helper personalities and how they usually approach things, right? People get into yoga and they're like, everybody needs to do yoga. You need to do this. This is what you need to do. And then you'll be happy. And then you'll be happy. And it gets people like, I don't want to like, that's not what I said I needed. Like, I know what I need. I know myself. And that's getting into the whole idea that like, we essentially do know ourselves way down at the bottom. It's just getting to the bottom is how you really serve people, helping themselves get to the bottom of that.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. Sorry, Pam.
Oh, go ahead.
And that can be so self-serving. Like, if I'm coming through my own lens with my own agenda of how I want to help a person, like, one, that is not, it might not be what they need, and two, it takes away or steals from their ability to help themselves in the future, and now they're just dependent on me, which is so not what a person needs. So I love how you said that, Amanda. It's helping the person or guiding the person through just reflection on everything they say. It's simple.
I agree with that, but I'm just going to put this out there because it's my own experience. And I do feel like we do know what people need, and it's fair. Sometimes their eyes aren't open to it. But I always say therapy doesn't work for me. And so like my mom would be like, you need therapy, go into the therapy office. And like I'd have those experiences Amanda just shared where like they wouldn't talk and they would just sit there, ask me a question, but I wasn't, and I've learned this through trauma training with Jafar, like some of us with really deep traumas, even though I don't even know what these traumas are, like I carry them, that I'm not ready to talk. I don't even know now if I'm ready to talk. I'm definitely talking more than I did 10 years ago. And a lot of my talking comes through typing, like a Facebook post. So I can share that way, I'm comfortable. But I'm just sharing this because not everybody, therapy, I probably do need therapy, but I'm just not ready for it yet still. So what we learn in yoga informed trauma training is that our fascia holds all these issues, and the more we move, so we sort of have to trick people, and we don't have to use yoga words. We can just be like, lift open your arms, lower your arms, you know, like go for a walk, like just move the body and get the body moving. And then this is what we learn with some of the populations that especially United We Own serves. Like sometimes it's just letting someone sit on their mat and like doing some sort of movement, and then you'll notice, and I've seen it happen like over the weeks, like they'll start to open up more. It may not be like the most deep revolution, but they may just share with you their favorite cereal, you know, like something. But our body really does hold all of this. And I'll just share this. Tomorrow, United We Own is doing an addiction workshop that might be helpful to your friend, because maybe there's an addiction she's holding on to. And it's not just, and the woman that's going to speak, she has like a deep education, I guess. I'm really interested in it. And if you can't catch it tomorrow, if you just make any donation, all their donations, I mean, all their things are free. But if you make even $1, they'll send you the replay link. But maybe there's something else going on and she's just putting it onto something else. We're all so complex sometimes. It gets so hard.
Yeah, it's definitely an addictive cycle. And I know, like, for me with those types of things that, like you said, like, I know it lives in my fascia. I know what I got to do, you know, when these feelings are arising, and I do them. But she is just kind of like in that place where she doesn't want to do any of the things, which is why I was like getting frustrated and like kind of worked up about it, because I'm like, we're just going back and forth and nothing's being accomplished. But I took a training with Adriana yesterday, a human potential workshop we did. And they were talking about trauma and basically how when you're dealing with other people who you're trying to help them through a trauma, that you have to find the path of most allowance. So if they're resistant to something that you're offering, you can't just like try to hammer it in, because then that even in itself becomes a little bit self-righteous and thinking, I know what you need. And it's like what Amanda was saying, they don't receive that it's just words. So you have to find that path of most allowance. So I think it reiterates what you were saying about how therapists just like ask a lot of questions and encourage reflection. So I guess
I think I'm not like I never bashed therapy. I just knew it wasn't for me. It made me feel so uncomfortable.
Know what you need at the moment.
Yeah. And like it was almost like I can have anxiety thinking about just sitting in that chair now. I only went like 3 times in my life. And you have to find like the most perfect fit therapist for you.
Pam, I was just going to say that. Like,
oh my God. Like it has to be your best friend.
It doesn't have to be the most perfect, but it has to be a good fit. And I also
someone that can like work with you. Like that can look at you and be like, oh, here we go. This one's going to be trouble.
Yeah, but sometimes those are from the therapist's perspective, that's not only the most, it's very, very interesting, but it's also, I think, very spiritually fulfilling. I was reading Pema Chodron's, one of her short little things, and it was about facing fear. And Pam, she said something about, there's a fable where somebody said, you know, what should I do to face fear? And the counselor said, well, you know, you go up and you ask fear, what does it take to defeat you? And so the person went up to Fear and said, what does it take to defeat you? And Fear said, well, I'm really good at doing, and named something that they were really good at. And the person said, yeah, and then what? And so on. And so some of it is just, it is uncomfortable. It is, some of my most painful times in life have been in therapy, but you come out the other side because you work through it and you sort of face it. And there are all different ways to face stuff, as you've said, but because it's painful doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. I mean, you're right. You've got to discriminate between somebody who is a good match and somebody who is a total serious asshole. And there are some asshole therapists out there who really do damage. But painful doesn't necessarily mean bad. If you're not uncomfortable going through some stuff, then why are you in therapy? I don't know anybody who goes to therapy because they're Little Mary Sunshine, you know?
I guess I was sharing that because like you weren't going to force me to go to therapy from age like 13 until even now. Like you're not going to force me to go. And like actually we can't force our friends to help themselves. Like we can't
Yes,
help our friends if they don't want to help themselves. Like
Pam, when my kids were both little, I don't know, we had 2 years where our marriage just hung by a thread. So Pierre was like, we need to go to marriage counseling, whatever. And I feel the same way as you. Like I've always worked out. Like shit hits the fan, I used to go run and lift weights and be a nut job at the gym. Like that was years ago. Now I get on my mat or go walk or go bike riding. So I made a deal with him that I go to therapy with him, but he has to start working out. Anyway, he did not start working out. We went to 4 sessions. In my head, it just sucked. So I just stood there like, and barely talked. And then I convinced him, and I don't remember because like this was years ago exactly, but I remember telling him, why don't we try, instead of going to a therapist and I feel like we're both sitting there moping at one another. Why don't we try the $25 copay? That's our weekly date. And we go somewhere and I'll find someone to watch the kids and we'll go out. And we would go and like have a coffee or whatever. And then we went to Malta and of course I had help there, and we would just go out and do stuff and it worked. So in that place, it was maybe like us not having time together and like the stress of having 2 little ones and no help. But when it comes to like the idea of sitting on a chair, I'm like, I'm just rolling my eyes at it. And I don't think it's bad. And I think it could be really helpful for someone else. And I try to pull it off with Catherine. Like yesterday, I asked her a question because of the way she was acting. And she came back with like, Mom, I don't need a therapy session, okay? And I'm like,
I gotta say, Micheline, there is nothing more telling than the phrase, it might work for someone else. There is nothing more telling. It's not like everything works for everybody, but that phrase, I'm an old lady, I can't tell you how many times I've heard this, and I thought, yeah, well, come back to me in 10 years. Let's see what's going on. You know, but it's really good that you found the solution to your marital issues.
And it could, like, down the road, it might be something that helps me.
You guys think life is hard now. Just wait, your teenage daughter years. This is what COVID.
I'm totally scared of.
That's what I told Amanda. I'm like, Isabella's just preparing. I mean, COVID's just preparing you for teenage years.
Oh my God.
We were all teenage girls. Like I wouldn't want me.
Oh well, when I got pregnant, I just wanted boys because I do not want to deal with me. I really don't. I was a horror in my teens. I struggled so bad, and it scares the living hell out of me. But
you didn't have a lot of tools, right?
I had zero tools.
It's true. It makes a difference.
Well, my 11-year-old niece, the sass and attitude on her face, I'm like, whoa, I can't wait. Melissa's like, I'm gonna drop her off at your door, ring the bell, and leave for the weekend.
I don't know. I've had some teenagers who started at the studio at 12, and they had all these tools.
Oh yeah, no, totally.
You know who I'm talking about? Like they were.
That's my.
You don't. When you're a teenager, it's the same as when you're a 2-year-old. You have developed past the ability of your prefrontal cortex to regulate your emotions. So you have big emotions that can't get processed quickly enough, and you act like a wild animal, like a drunk wild animal. And the thing is, when you do these meditation and yoga practices, they strengthen, they add gray matter to the prefrontal cortex. So it changes the behavior of a teenager. And it, you know, if I know how Isabella's able to meditate. The 2-year-old meditates by getting into a flow state and playing with something uninterrupted, where there's like just enough challenge that they're like really preoccupied. And it's like they get into that concentration. That's her meditation. She's so calm after she has the space to do that, because it's developing her prefrontal cortex. There's a biological implication for all of it. And the problem is, like, people don't have this knowledge, and I think that through, you know, a lot of therapy is based on the yogic teaching. So Pam, as much as you don't want to go to therapy, I think you've been doing your own therapy for.
No, I don't think it wasn't that. It wasn't that I wasn't ready. And when I learned that in Jafar's training, it was like, oh my God, there isn't something wrong with me. Like, because you're already going to therapy, you feel like something's wrong with you. And then you go and it's not working. And you're like, oh, you know what? There's a step before therapy, and it's called moving the fascia, and I have to do that first.
Totally. It's an important part of it that they're only starting to integrate now.
Yeah.
Now,
so like
go to yoga, you know, we don't know why it's working, but it's working. It helps people, you know. It's like we knew for thousands of years it had to be paired together. You can't.
I know, like, I'll probably go to therapy. I mean, it's never too late to go. I'm still not ready, but at least I know it's a tool for me. I always tell Amanda, I'm like, she's saving me thousands on therapy right now because of the studio.
Oh, she saved me. She saved me more than just thousands. Sanity, my whole household. I don't know. The list will be like forever, ever, ever, and ever long.
My teachers and their teachers, it's like yoga. It's not me. It's just yoga. It's very effective, right? It's a very beautiful system.
But I see it. Catherine won't do, like, now she's in a phase where, like, she won't do yoga, but gymnastics was doing it for her. She's moving now. Right now, it's like
let that be her yoga.
Yeah. Now, right now, it's super hard because there is none of that. So it's been biking. She just takes off on her bike ahead of us, and she's in like cloud 9, whatever, all chill.
Find what works, right? What actually know about the path of least resistance. That's also a big part of the yoga system too, is when you teach a student, like in Ayurveda, you have all the knowledge to like heal anything. But my teacher always teaches, do not treat someone who is not ready to heal.
Yeah.
They'll let you know. You'll say, this is what you can do to fix XYZ. And they'll say, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to stop eating that. And I'll say, okay. That's it. I'm not going to fight with them about it. When they're ready, they'll do it. It's just the way it is. It's like if I offer you this concentration or meditation practice that I know is going to help you, and you say, no, I can't do that. My mind is too busy. Okay.
Hey, it's my coffee right now. I know I shouldn't be drinking my coffee every day, but I'm like, right now while we're going through this, I'm going to have my cup of coffee.
It's all about like moderation and just to speak to your
it's 8:18 people.
Just one second. Anybody who needs to hear this, who's going through an abusive relationship, the book Why Is He So Angry can really help to dismantle the conditionings of the mind of somebody who's going through an abusive relationship. So I just want to throw that out there for anybody who hears this who needs to hear it.
Wait, what did you say?
It's something like Why Is He So Angry? I think is the book. It's by a psychotherapist who specializes in abusive men, in treating abusive men through therapy. But it's, if you find it, just tell me the actual title. It also applies to people who are in abusive relationships with women. It just talks about the different archetypes, what goes on in the brain. And I think it's just like a natural tendency where people can get really, really imbalanced, and then they can start causing harm. So by seeing the cycle, someone might be able to pull themselves out of it. And I know a lot of people are stuck in abusive households right now, so I just want to share that just in case.
Wait, is it Why does he do that inside the minds of angry and controlling men?
Yeah, the title of the book is Why Does He Do That? If anybody needs that right now. Why does he do that? Okay, I will do pranayama now. Thank you for everybody's contributions. Very interesting conversation.
We're stealing pranayama and meditation time now.
We're stealing the pranayama. Stealing meditation now.
Yep.
I'll give it back later. Let's start with bumblebee breath. So you can take your thumbs into your ears, but listen before you close off, and then take your peace fingers over your eyes. So you'll close off your eyes and your ears. You'll inhale and exhale through the nose, and as you exhale, you create a humming sound in the back of the throat. And you'll do that for 5 rounds. And you want to really relax the palate of the mouth and try to pull the vibration up into the back of the throat, okay? So we'll take 5. Okay, so for our next pranayama, we're going to do an alternate nostril breath. You'll take your right hand and fold the peace fingers into the center of the palm for Vishnu Mudra, revealing the thumb and the ring finger. Close off the right nostril with the thumb. Close off the left nostril with the ring finger. We'll inhale through both and exhale through both. Close off the right nostril with the thumb. Inhale through the left. Close off both. Exhale through the right. Inhale through the right. Close off both. Exhale through the left. Inhale through the left. Close off both. Exhale through the right. Inhale through the right. Close off both. Exhale through the left. Inhale through the left. Close off both. Exhale through the right. Inhale through the right. Close off both. Exhale through the left. And you can place the hands down on the knees. For those of you on Instagram, just set your timer for 20 minutes and come to your meditation practice. Everybody else, we can make our way into our comfortable seated position. If you need to lean up against a wall or sit up on an elevated pillow or block, you can watch the breath as it moves through the nose. You can watch the body. You can do spinal breathing. There's a lot of options. Spinal breathing, we inhale to the base of the spine, exhale to the crown of the head. You might want to count your breath backwards from 100 to 0. Work with whatever you're working with. Bring the hands to prayer. Bowing head. Namaste. Thank you, everybody.
Namaste. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Michelle, I hope I didn't come out sounding like therapy is not important, because that's not what
Oh
I
my gosh, no. Thank you, no. No judgment.
Wait, my camera's still off too.
Michelle's the perfect therapist because she's also a yoga teacher, so she gives all that to her.
Literally, Amanda, do the teacher training. Amanda knows. I had so many moments of like, why did I even go to grad school? Like, not really, but like everything is in yoga.
Yeah, it's all
Everything that I've been taught to do with people.
Yeah, and you are probably an amazing therapist, helping so many people.
Thank
Probably
you,
if I
Pam.
went to you when I was younger, I would be fine now.
Thank you, Pam. Thank you, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Have a beautiful day.
Bye, loves. Alex, I'm gonna come over in 10 minutes.
Okay.